Hey guys, how are you? This is Ishai Breslauer, your host of the CRE SharkEye Show. Today, guys, we have a treat. We have the GOAT. And I'm going to explain in a second what we're talking about. You know what? I'm going to let the guy explain. His name is Derricks. And sometimes on Thursday, I try to bring some different stuff other than real estate. And today we have something to inspire us. That's what we want to do. We want to go home all inspired and have our, soul seek for better deals, better real estate, run our businesses better, and actually be pumped. All in all, Dana, thank you so much for being with us today.
I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me. And I'm excited to bring whatever I can to your audience.
It's beautiful. And you know what? I'm following you, and this is exciting stuff. And you know what? Before we even start to dig in and talk about all that exciting thing, those exciting things, tell everybody who you are. For those who don't know you, who you are and what you're about, so they can relate. And later we're going to start digging into this whole beautiful thing.
Awesome. So I am from Wisconsin. I grew up on a small dairy farm. I now own goats. And so lots of people know me for my goats. They call me the GOAT, greatest of all time, or just call me a goat. It is what it is. I am a 13-time author. I've been in digital online marketing space for 12 plus years, which is a dinosaur compared to most. I've seen everything and then some. I know I'm pretty much a monetization specialist. So my specialty is copywriting, building relationships, monetizing those relationships. I'm a direct response guy. So for those that know what that is, and made millions of dollars on the internet. I have done a lot of cool things, won awards, et cetera, et cetera. I've had tens of thousands of people I've worked with over the years, put, my 30,000+ hours in, and I've dabbled in commercial real estate, just so you know. I am not a huge, massive success story, but I've done some successfully, and I have a cool strategy I would share. But it's probably peons compared to what you guys do. But that's kind of me. And now I just kind of hang out with cool people like you. And if anything I say or do helps, awesome. And if not,
oh my gosh, I can already know. I already know what you can help us with. I already know. And I love that. I love that story. You know what? Let's go back a little bit, because there's a lot of things we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about what our the Dream 100, which is your expertise, meaning, and what you've built around. And we're going to talk about this because many of the people who are listening to us probably don't know what it is. But we're going to get back to that. But I want to start all the way to the beginning. How you started. How did you become this entrepreneur that, how did you get to that?
Good question. So this is literally it. I was 12 years old. I'd grown up on a farm, and I hated, there were some tasks I didn't mind. I loved driving the tractor. I would do that all the time. But unloading the hay bales in the 90-degree, humid, no airflow hay mow in the summer for $10 an hour, was horrible. You'd come out of the barn, and you would, do you know what farmer blow is? I apologize if this isn't PG-13+. Are you familiar with what a farmer blow is?
Tell us.
All right. So it's when you have stuff in your nose, and then instead of blowing onto a Kleenex, you just kind of clog one nostril and you just blow and you clear it right out. That's called a farmer blow. So
I love it.
If you see someone do it, don't just assume they're rude, especially if they do it on the streets of New York City or something. They might just be a farmer. All right. Give them the benefit of the doubt. But anyway, you would do a farmer blow, and a bunch of hay would come out of your nose and from your brain. And I'm like, dude, this is not good. I don't want to do this anymore. So then I thought, I got to figure out, how can I make $10 an hour on the computer? And I was like, well, I looked around, there's crap all over I could sell on eBay. So I started selling on eBay, and then that turned into me building computers and selling on my eBay. And then that turned into me selling stuff on Craigslist. And then that turned into, one thing after another, got into Amazon, blah, blah, blah. So pretty much the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey was coming out of that hay mow with dust and hay into all of my head and couldn't take it anymore, decided there's got to be a better way.
And that's amazing, because that led you to go and start selling stuff on the computer. But you know what? Let me ask you this. You're all the way there in the farm. I'm assuming that conditions are not allowing you to be that connected. You probably had to sort of find ways, right? Am I right? Am I like nailing it?
Oh, yeah.
You had to be creative, resourceful. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, literally. So back in when I was 12, which the kids that are 12 now don't even know what this is, but we had something called dial-up internet. So yeah, so running, I don't know about you, but running an internet business with dial-up internet is not ideal. Now this was in the days of like DSL was becoming a thing, but we lived in the country on a farm. So what I did was, I didn't realize it at the time, but I did this thing called the Dream 100. So I made a list of like 15 of my neighbors that were in range to bike to. And actually I got to back up a step. So I called the internet company and asked, can we get DSL? Like my buddies in town have it. Can we have it? And they're like, where do you live? And I told them, they're like, no, like we're not able to just service you. So then I would call them back every month, every single month. And then finally I was like, why can't we get it? And they're like, well, it's economics, Dana. They're like, if we were to spend all that resource to dig the line out to just you, it wouldn't make us any money. And I'm like, oh, well, then what would make you money? They're like, well, if you and all of your neighbors ordered DSL, that we could do. And I was like, ding, ding, ding. So 12-year-old Dana on his bike goes out to all the 15 neighbors within biking distance and basically said, hey, would you sign up for DSL? And 14 out of 15 said yes. Technically 15 out of 15 said yes, but the one that said yes, that I crossed off the list, asked what the internet was. He was an old man, and I felt really bad. So you can sell and still retain your soul. But that was good enough. So the next time I called the internet company, I said, hey, can you give us internet? They're like, no, but I'm like, oh, but wait, what if there's 14 others that want it out here? And they're like, all right, done deal. And boom, within about 6 months, from beginning to end, I had high-speed internet in the country before just about anybody else, in the country being the rural area where I was from. And that led to actually being able to run an internet business because you need internet for it.
That's amazing. That's an incredible story. At a certain point, you got into this thing, and that's what you became big with, I guess. Unless, correct me if I'm wrong, by the way. It's called the Dream 100. And you know what? I know what it is, and I know you. But if you could tell everybody, and those people who don't understand what I'm talking about, and for them it's like gibberish, what are the Dream 100?
So the Dream 100 is essentially the 100-ish people that you could strike a deal with of some sort or build a relationship with, and that would get you to the level that you want to go. So in other words, imagine, what are the 100 best dominoes that you could topple over in your real estate investing? What are the best 100? And then turn those 100 dominoes into people, and that is your Dream 100. So basically, these are the people, and you don't have to make a deal happen with all of them by any means. But let's say you got 10 of your 100 top people to do something with you. That is monumental in terms of getting you to where you want to go. Because otherwise, you're playing too small, or you're just not getting intentional enough about getting around those people and making a deal happen with those people in some capacity. So in other words, it's how we met, right? Because I did that, and I built a relationship with an influencer, a hugely successful person that we both follow. So, and then he talks about me. So that's how you guys are now in my world. So that's kind of the way it works, and it's like networking, except with a high level of intention and with a predetermined outcome. And if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. That's kind of the whole heart and soul of it, is we're not forcing anything to happen. But for the stuff that does happen, like, it's going to be sort of a fast forward to your success.
So you know what? I'm going to translate everything you just beautifully said into the real estate, world, into the commercial real estate world. So basically, and I'm talking to, I guess, two types of people, or three or four, it doesn't matter, but let's like sort of dig into that, and you will help us think it through. A person who wants to go and be a professional investor. So obviously he needs to find those top people, right, who deal with those investors and connect to them. So that's his thing. And then you have the guy, and that's my courses, basically, that's what I do in terms of the internet, when it comes to the internet. For people who want to go and build a career in commercial real estate, you want to become something in commercial real estate one day, maybe entrepreneur, developers, or whatever, landlords, doesn't matter. But they want to start with a career. They want to become an analyst, a property manager, something, have a position in one of those nice, beautiful companies. And that's not easy to go in and break in, especially if you don't have that type of degree that you have. And the key is, again, the Dream 100. You have to get, like you said, to those people who would be your, wow, that person, I want to be like him, and I want to get to that person. And so I just translated basically what the Dream 100, what it is for the real estate genre. But here's the big question, and that's the question for you. It's not easy to get to those people. It's beautiful to talk about it, as we say, but you became an expert in that. Tell us, how do you really make a connection with a person that you want to do business with on a high level that will actually boost your business or would get you to a place where you want to be? It's hard to get to those guys. How do you do that?
Great question. So some of you probably are already thinking to yourself, wow, I've been doing something like this without realizing that there's a name for it. That's how I got my aha moment, was when I read about this concept in a book. And I realized, wow, I've been doing this for a long time. Now I have a name for it. And because I now have a name for it, I can create a system to do it, right? And create, a path for myself to successfully do this. So to answer your question, to start building these relationships, it's really not that hard if you do it the right way. A lot of people don't do it the right way. And this is what that looks like. So I like to use the analogy of dating. So with Dream 100, we're looking for marriage, and specifically we want polygamous marriage. We want lots of marriages with our Dream 100, right? So it's, when I say marriage, it means like we are creating rock solid relationships that are ever evolving. So it's not like this thing we just check off at the end. There's this finish line, we got what we want, and that's it. You want to keep working with your Dream 100, and it all starts with, well, what do they need? Right? So what do they need? We could spell this out for your actual audience. So of the two examples that you went through, which do you want to kind of create a live example here? Which would you choose?
In terms of what? Live what?
The two kind of types of listeners here.
So let's talk about the guy want to make a career in commercial real estate. Okay, you want to make a career.
Perfect.
So I guess his Dream 100 would be owners of companies, or people who are, top in their company, people who can actually hire him or hire her to come and join them into that place so they can actually get a boost of that.
Perfect. So it all starts with, what do they need? Right? So what is that person, your Dream 100 target, what do they need? So I'm going to kind of put myself in the shoes of the person that wants to get into and eventually maybe own a property management company, or, if they want to go that route. Is that fair?
Fair.
Okay. So I would start talking to property management companies and figure out, what are you guys, what do you need right now? And probably a lot of them, they need good help. Pretty much anywhere in the country right now, it's really hard to get people to just work at all, let alone do a good job. So I would imagine a huge issue for property management companies is staffing. So if I could come to the table with some sort of solution for them, even if it means hey, I'll come in and I don't mind sweeping the floor. I'm not above that. If that's where you're starting with, you want to get your feet into the door that way, that's a great, position to lead with, because you come in with value. Even better than that is hey, this is my buddy. He really does not like what he does in construction. He doesn't like traveling so much. He's willing to take a pay cut and come with me. And manage, these units for you, and he's about as reliable as it gets, and blah, blah, right? So you come with staff even for them. Like, you see how all of a sudden that's like, whoa, that'll get someone's attention. That will open the door for you. And that's just one little tiny example of if that's where you're at, right? So starting to build a relationship, it begins with you getting to know what do they need, right? And that's typically a conversation with them. And then it's not so hard to figure out how you can get in with them and build that relationship, because it's a constant value exchange. That's all the Dream 100 is. You show up with value, you over deliver, they want to exchange value back. And if they don't, it's not the best relationship for you. You move on to somebody that does. So for example, the guy that, we follow, Russell Brunson, him and I have been exchanging value for over 5 years, and we still, to this day, we keep going, right? So it's one of those things. It's like a marriage. It just ever evolves. Value just keeps exchanging back and forth. That's really the name of the game, and that's what really gets you where you want to be.
It's amazing that you're saying it, because I started this podcast during the pandemic. I didn't know anything about podcasting, didn't know anything about online marketing, and the pandemic actually brought that part, because I got stuck at home. What can I do? So podcasting was a thing all of a sudden, and et cetera. And it became a thing. But the thing I decided was, and that follows exactly your advice and what you just said, to actually interview people with interesting content, to bring people interesting content, and to bring everything for the people who are being interviewed and for the people who are listening. And that is it. Nothing for me. I was not thinking of me at all. What it will bring in the future, I have zilch idea. At that point, I said, I don't know anything. My purpose here is to give people the voice and to give people great content, and that is it. I don't know anything. So I think that it starts from the place where you want to give, and only then you're going to get. That's how it starts.
Amen. And if I may inject,
go.
So y'all can see this live happening right now. We are Dream 100. And I am so bad with pronouncing names. Can you help me one more time so I don't butcher it?
Yishai.
Don't
worry about it. You're not the first.
So if Yishai, there's not a lot of Yishais where I live, unfortunately. I wish there were. Then I would, it'd be easier for me to remember. But Yishai. So let's say that we're at an event in the future, and I'm walking around and people are bombarding me and talking to me, and then Yishai comes up. He's like, "Hey," he's like, "I'm Yishai. We did a podcast, remember? And we talked about, you taught me how to farmer blow." And I would instantly be like, "Yes, I remember." And then let's say that I was going to dinner and I was like, "What are you doing tonight for dinner?" And you're like, "I don't have any plans." And I'm like, come join us at Ruth Chris up, whatever. And then at dinner, one of my buddies, it just so happens to be, let's say, has a $100 million company, and he's got $10 million that he wants to allocate into real estate investing or whatever. And boom, Yishai gets introduced to that person. Do you see how Yishai had no idea that doing a podcast with me could lead to anything? And heck, it might not, but it could too. And that's like the name of the game. If you do enough of these, they're going to start feeding you. And then that snowball that's, pushing up the hill, you don't really see what's going to happen. It gets crested, and then it starts coming down the hill by itself, and just this thing grows, and you just get fed basically perpetuity for the rest of your life.
I love it. Tell me something. Give us a little bit of, something cool story about reaching out to one of those Dream 100 and in the right way. You know what? Give us an example, a real life example of the wrong way, because you probably know hundreds of those. Something spicy of the wrong way, and one great of the right way that maybe you got from someone, or you sent someone, or someone who sent someone, something cool.
Yeah, I've got a good example of each. All right, at least I think so. So the wrong way, when you are starting out, whether it's you're starting out Dream 100, so like Yishai, you were not a beginner when you started your podcast. You were a beginner podcaster when you started your podcast, right? So when you're a beginner at something, don't be on, never underestimate where somebody will be in a year or 2 years or 5 years. Okay. So let's say that Yishai was just beginning his podcasting, and he approached me to come on his podcast. And I thought, well, you don't really have that much for a listener base, or what am I going to really get out of this? I don't know. I don't want to do it all fast. don't underestimate somebody where they'll be in a year or 2 years or 5 years. Here's why. I had a scenario where I was attending a live event. I knew pretty much nobody. I am a nervous little farm guy, farm kid from Wisconsin. I don't know people. I go to Dallas and I'm at this huge convention, thousands of people. I did know the Dream 100. And there were a couple people that I made sure that I had a plan to Dream 100 them at the event. And one of them just happened to be a speaker at that event. And there was like a 3-day event. So the first day I found him in the hall, but he was swarmed by people. I stood kind of in line to talk to him. And the opportunity didn't come up. So then I just kind of let it go. And then the next day, he was sitting in the back of the room at kind of a private table. He was all by himself, didn't really have anything going on. So I thought during a break between speakers, I'm like, this is the perfect opportunity. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take I had a couple books that I wrote at the time. I packaged them up real nice with his name on it. And I went back to hand them to him in the back of the room. And I was so excited to meet him and gift him this and build a relationship, whatever. And I'll never forget, I got up to him and I said, hello, said my name. And then I handed the books to him. And then it didn't go how I wanted. So he actually physically pushed the books back toward me and said, yeah, I don't want those. And I was like stunned. I've faced rejection before, but I never thought this guy would do that. And I remember I was mortified and I went straight to my hotel room and I just sat on the bed. I'm like, what am I doing? I spent time away from my family to be here for that. Really? And anyway, I didn't let that really get me down. Instead, what I did was I just worked harder and I doubled down. And the funny part was the very next year where I had gotten rejected by him and I was a nobody sitting in the back row, I actually was invited to speak at that event. And
Amazing.
I remember walking backstage and I saw someone coming toward me and I looked and it was that guy. He saw me in the speaker area walking backstage, dressed really well to go speak. And I remember
he remembered you?
He did, because when I got close to him and he recognized me, because normally you would greet someone, right? You all kind of know each other. He saw me and he turned white as a ghost and he just turned his head and walked away. So that was the ultimate, the best revenge is success, right? So
I love it.
That's the moral of that story is you can't, say yes to everybody all the time, but don't ever underestimate where somebody will be a year from now, 5 years from now. And at the end of the day, if you have to just accept their books and then throw them in the trash can when they walk away, that's fine. I get it, but just have decency with people. And I've got a million success stories with Dream Herding, but I don't want to, take too much time here outside of your kind of what you have planned. So if you want one, go for it. Otherwise, we can keep on rolling.
No, it's all good. I love those stories. Tell me something. You developed this whole idea that's called Dream 100 to help other people. And I've seen that lately you've developed a software or something like that, right? To help people to get that. How does that help people and what is it exactly?
Good question. So let me preface. So I have to give credit where it's due. So the Dream 100 concept was invented by a guy named Chet Holmes in his book, The Ultimate Sales Machine. And unfortunately, Chet passed away and he didn't have a lot created around the concept. That's where I first learned it. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is what I've been doing my whole life. But there was only one chapter in a book on it. So I went crazy and I wrote 3 books on the subject, created a challenge, a course, a mastermind, and now a software, live event, all that stuff. So that's how I've arrived here. So the software is essentially something that was developed. I'm not a software programmer. I'm a farmer. So it's a long time coming. It's been 7 years, but better late than never. And essentially the software is pretty dang amazing. And I will, I definitely need to demo it for you because words don't do it justice. But essentially what it does is imagine loading up your Dream 100 into a dashboard, right? And inside that dashboard, you have all their contact info you can save in there. You have all of their social media posts, it like live, feeds into the software. So there's no more distractions, there's no more ads, news feeds, strangers on your timeline. It's all in the DreamHunter software. And even cooler is you can also create checklists for each of your DreamHunter targets. So instead of just kind of saying, oh yeah, I'd love to like work with this guy, now you can actually create a checklist with a dream outcome. So you type in the dream outcome. So maybe that's, for the folks that want to be a landlord someday, maybe they identify a list of potential fourplexes that they'd want to buy, and they find the owner, and then they put the owner in the DreamHunter software. Okay, cool. What's my dream outcome? Acquire a fourplex, right? All right, so how do you get there? Now you're going to put each step with a checklist item, just like Trello, and you're going to literally be able to do each thing and check it off as you go. You can have your team in there do the same thing. And now all of a sudden it takes all of the guesswork. It takes all of the time out of DreamHunter because it's all right in there. Everything you need in terms of figuring out who your DreamHunter is, how to contact them, what exactly you're doing with them. It's all inside of the software.
So let's sum it up for a second. You're writing down criteria of stuff that you actually are looking for, and the program finds the person? That's how it works?
Almost. So you give the person to the program. So if you sit back and you get...
Let's give an example, okay? Because I saw exactly, meaning I'm taking it from a post that you put, and that's a guy I'm following also because he's in real estate. That's Grant Cardone, of course, okay? Obviously. So let's take him as an example, okay? We're going to also hashtag him on this one. So I'm saying, how does it do about him? What does it do exactly? Meaning, I was not understanding when I saw that, and I'm very curious about this. Go ahead.
All right, let me ask you. Is your audience, do they see this, or do they just hear this, or is it a combination?
Some hear, some see. But
do you want me to show you? Could I share my screen and show you?
Yeah, but if you share it, talk about every single detail that we see, so the people that don't see it can actually, by the way, those who are listening to it, you guys can go to YouTube and see it on YouTube, okay? On my channel. But those who are preferring listening, don't worry, keep on listening. You're not going to miss a thing because Dana is going to just explain every single thing.
I'm going to describe it in such great, tremendous detail that you won't even want to see it. You'll just know it.
That's why he's the GOAT. That's why.
Can you tick that button that lets me share screen?
Sure.
Zoom gets crabby sometimes.
Here we go.
All right. Okay. Check this out. So let's say that, we want to, I'll just let you kind of help me decide what we're doing with Grant. So this is the DreamHunter software. So for those that can't see this, you basically click on a button and all of your DreamHunter targets show up in your own kind of dashboard. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to type in Grant, and Grant Cardone is going to pop up. So I'm going to click on Grant's profile. And basically in here, the software scraped Grant Cardone's email address and whatever phone number. I doubt that's his, but it might be. So don't call it if you see it. So his contact info.
Probably not. It's probably not his phone number.
Probably not. But I could save it if I did have it in the software, and it's kind of like a CRM. So basically inside the software, on Grant's profile, for example, I have links to all of his social media sites. I have his contact info. I have a timeline of all of the posts that he's made in the last week. And I can segment that based on social media platform. So YouTube or LinkedIn or Facebook or what have you, I can click on any of them and it takes me right to the post. And then hop back in. So clicking on any of these posts takes me right to the post, allows me to get really cool, intimate access with him in a non-creepy way, right? So I can start commenting on his posts, engaging on his posts, whether it's his videos or his social posts, whatever. And then
let me ask you this: those posts that you just showed, are they showing what do you call it? Are they showing where they are? YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever.
Yep.
Instagram.
So, yep, exactly. So the software,
I don't see. It says last scan, post. It doesn't show where. It says
okay.
DM me, last scan, blah blah blah.
Good. Yeah.
Oh, it says
question.
all. I see. It says all.
Yep.
Oh.
So this software is like a month old. So we're almost done with adding LinkedIn in, and then Instagram will be next. But right now, Facebook and YouTube are in, so we can segment it, and then you can click on any of these. These are his YouTube videos. So I clicked on it in 1 second. I'm right at his LinkedIn video, or excuse me, his YouTube video. I can come in here, I can comment, I can like, I can engage, etc.
Cool.
And we call this, in other words, Drew 100 him. Okay. And then because this works with fan pages or profile pages, because this is a fan page, I'm going to guess that it probably doesn't have his interest, but if it was his, let's say his profile, his actual profile, not his fan page, you could have his interests here. So if you ever wonder kind of how to break the ice with somebody, and maybe adding you would be better, but we'll roll with this. You can get to know people, what they like for sports, where they've checked in at. Well, you can see here, these are the things that Cardone has liked. He likes Frank Kern, Donald Trump, Success Magazine, etc. Sometimes it'll show where they've checked in. So I like to, figure out what restaurants they like. That's something to blow them away, get their attention, send them a gift card to a local restaurant that they've checked in at before that's nearby to them. So that's a good way to break the ice. And then this is kind of the coolest feature that we just rolled out. This is the objectives tab. So on Grant's profile, for those that are listening, basically what I was describing before, click on objectives and you can type in a dream outcome, right? So my dream outcome for Grant is for him to promote my Dream 100 software, for example, right? And then you come down to action steps and you literally create your own checklist of, all right, how do I get him to promote Dream 100 software for me, right? And then I, create a list of items to take action on. Number 1, get a cameo from him. Number 2, get access to his assistant. Number 3, send a gift and buy 30 minutes of his assistant's time. Number 4, pitch the software demo to his assistant and gift them access. Number 5, deploy the JV and cash in. And then I can scroll down and I can take notes just like a CRM. So, I had a quick chat with his assistant and he's going to schedule us. He likes the Florida Gators. So I should send a gift on Amazon that has to do with Florida Gators, blah, 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 right? So I can put notes in there just like a CRM would let me to.
It's amazing.
So, right. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. So with it, let me summarize for anybody that's not seen this, or even those that are. I don't know how in the world I Dream 100 for 7 years without this software. I don't know. I would never want to not Dream 100 with, or would want to Dream 100 without this software. So that's kind of what I've been up to. Hopefully that's as cool for you as it is me.
Tell me something. How long did it take you to make this software?
It was months. It was probably 3-4 months. And I've never done a software before. So, this was a learning process for me. But just like anything else, guys, like you don't have to, my software could be your pivoting into something else, commercial instead of residential, or, multi-units instead of single family. Don't let the thing that in the back of your head you probably should have been doing years ago, don't wait so long, and you know that, but just let me tell you that I give you permission to pivot into the next thing, just like I have. It's pretty awesome.
It is pretty awesome. It is pretty awesome. I wanted to ask you something and it just slipped out of my head. It was like
That's
the
all right.
question was like there, it was there, but I just flew off the window. The one thing I wanted to ask you is, what is your next move with the Dream 100 to make the software better? What's your growth? What's your next step?
That's an awesome question. So I'm gonna kind of firehose a kind of a complicated subject in seconds that probably deserves minutes. If that's okay, that helps explain it. So there's 4 types of Dream 100ing. Okay, so you have one-to-one. That's like, hey, I want to go after the exact landlord or owner of the fourplex that I would potentially want to buy. That's one-to-one. I'm going me to them. Then you have one-to-many. Okay, so type 2 is one-to-many. That's all right. I want to buy a fourplex, and these are my parameters, but I'm sick of going one-to-one and trying to get these landlords to talk to me. I'm going to go to a landlord property or a property management company that has a list of 100 different fourplexes that they manage, and I'm going to go to them and tell them what I want, and they're going to see if they have a landlord that might want to sell to me, right? So that would be one-to-many. Okay, so I'm going to a person that already has a group of those people that I'm interested in talking to. Okay. And then there's types 3 and 4. I'm going to go straight to type 4 to keep this simple. Okay. So type 4 is kind of, I call it fast. Well, okay. It's type 3. I lied. Type 3 is turbocharged Dream Unhearted. Okay. So that is essentially kind of like licensing, right? Or a handshake sells a lot at once. So that's where I'm trying to get to, or I am getting to. I am at type 3 Dream Unhearted, where I'm going after people that I want to license and carry my software integrated into their stuff, much like Russell has done with his software, ClickFunnels. Just about everything on the internet, when it comes to marketing, they're pushing ClickFunnels. So I would like to do something similar. So that's where I am. I'm done type 3. I've gone type 1, 2, 3 in my career. And maybe some of you guys are transitioning from type 1 to type 2, type 2 to type 3 like me. That's where I'm at. That's the next big thing, is everybody needs Dream Unhearted software.
Beautiful. Question to you. You started saying in the beginning about your involvement in commercial real estate, and somewhat of an involvement. Want to share it with us a little bit?
Yeah, I am like a small, tiny little baby fish compared to probably most of your listeners, but I did find a kind of a cool strategy that worked well for me. And when I retire, or, when I get out of what I'm doing, I might go back into this. So I found a kind of cool loophole, and there's a number of factors that have to be right for this to work. So I went to college, and back in like 2012 through 2015, or 2011 through 15 or something. And so I was on the tail end of the recession, and I was lucky enough to find a foreclosure still that sat empty for a couple of years. It got hit hard by, like all homes did, but it was kind of in and out of the hands of people that couldn't afford it. So it was a 2,500 square foot house in a nice neighborhood in the town I was going to college in. And it was a split level, built in like the 80s. Bought it as a single family home, paid not very much for it. And I ended up, living in it and then renting out the other bedrooms to friends throughout college. And then I realized, like, wait a minute, what if, because I was working with the city on permits, and they were only giving me like the ability to rent to 3 other people. So technically there could only be 4 occupants. And then there was only so much I could do in terms of like making more parking and doing all this stuff. So I'm like, well, what if this was a duplex instead of a single family? And they're like, oh, well, then you could rent it out to 8. Your occupancy is 8, and you can add a driveway. You can do all this. I'm like, holy crap. Well, how hard is it to make it into a duplex? Now, normally you would think, oh, that means that you have to, create separate meter for energy, electricity. You have to create a separate sewer, separate water, separate freaking heater, all of it, right? So I Dream 100'd the city inspector, who's kind of in charge of all this. And most people would just assume you need to do all that, and then, hey, city inspector, come say yes to this and bless it. I instead said, hey, how could I make this a duplex without going through all of the, blah, 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 or like minimal work? And he's like, well, technically, you could put a fireproof door separating the 2 units, and then you could keep all the utilities in your name, and you're paying them. And then since you don't have forced air heat, legally, because you have a boiler, legally, they can share the heat source because there's no air circulating between the units. And he's like, yeah, just put that door in and keep everything in your name, and then have me come out and I'll take a look. And I did. And for like $350, I converted my single family into a duplex, rented it out for twice as much, held on to it for a number of years.
That's beautiful. I love that story.
Instantly added 25% value onto it, sold it, netted 139 grand after college, which was pretty darn good considering I only paid 107 grand for it. Put a little work into it, but that's my real estate story. I found a loophole, and I Dream 100'd the city inspector, and I was able to do pretty darn well on my college. It's
amazing because everybody calls it a different thing, and the way I call it the team. Everyone is, meaning in commercial real estate, the focus is the team. Yeah, people do single family. You got to be a little bit handy. You got to be able to do some stuff on your own. You got to be able to actually get your hands dirty some point. And a person who is in commercial real estate, no matter which size, if it's 10 units or 150 or 1,000, doesn't matter. or if it's retail, or if it's industrial, doesn't matter. You have to have a great team, and you have to be a great conductor. You have to know how to conduct the orchestra, and you have to get to know who, not how, but who, right? You have to find the who, and you have to find a great team. And that's exactly what you did. You found the right expert to tell exactly what to do instead of trying to figure out on your own what to do, especially in a field, which there's so many components, so many things that are unknowns. You got to find who knows what to do. Love that story.
Well said.
Dana, I just want to tell you something before we close. You said in the beginning that you're a goat herder, right? And you real goats, and not necessarily the goat, what we call the goat, like Michael Jordan, the GOAT, right? The greatest of all time. But you have to understand that the goat herder is also a goat. Like I don't know if you know that, but you see all the books behind me. I'm a rabbi also, meaning it happens to be that way. Meaning don't practice that much, but I used to teach and I used to do all kind of things. So let me give you the biblical aspect of it, which you probably already know, because the Old Testament, New Testament meet in the beginning. Pretty much everybody knows who the goat herders were. All the greatest people in the world, from Abraham, Jacob, Isaac, Moses, David. King David was a goat herder. That's what he was. Everybody was a goat herder. So you got a big future, because how do you say, goat herders, they make it big. That's it.
I've never been compared to anyone even relatively close to that. So if anyone else is listening, go get a herd of goats, and then people will talk to you in the same breath as Abraham and all these amazing best humans that have ever walked this earth, really. That is awesome. Thank you. I'll take it.
No, but that's it. Meaning, if I was the one to give you that, meaning kudos to me, because I found out. But I'm saying
that's awesome.
Being goat herder is one of the greatest things. All those great people across history in the biblical eras, each and every one of them was a goat herder, and being able to take care of the goats, apparently, maybe, I don't know, possibly have something with you being great. I don't know.
But if you draw that connection, I'll take it. And a fun fact about goats, by the way, I don't recommend this, but they are the most consumed animal on earth because they require the least amount of resources to raise. So lots of people eat those things. Yeah. I don't.
I did not know that. That's great. Dana, thank you so much for your time. I want to tell you guys, you check out the links above, below, everywhere for Dana Derricks, for the software, for everything. We're going to leave it here so you guys can check it out. Dana, anything to say in audio to the audience, how they can find you, your software, your challenges, your stuff? How can they get to you? Tell them.
Awesome. So if you are the type of person that wants to kind of dive in and try this software out for yourself and go like all in kind of thing, you can go over to joindream100.com. I just began, there's a free 14-day trial. People were banging my door down for it. So go to joindream100.com, get your feet wet on the software. You will never dream 100 without it. It's kind of like going from, the first time you went from one computer monitor to two, and then you're like, I cannot go back to one, right? Like it's kind of like that. You're not going to dream 100. You're not going to run your business probably without it. And then otherwise, if you just want to kind of get your feet wet on this concept, get to know more of it, it's intriguing to you, go to d100.com. That's the letter D100.com. There's lots of free resources, awesome information there, books, podcasts, etc. So d100.com.
Thank you so much, Dana. Thank you so much for your time, for being with us today. I really appreciate it. And you guys,